This is the Open Floor NBA podcast where we talk about the league and all the big stories going on in it. The biggest story, of course, Game 2, NBA Finals. Oklahoma City wins on Sunday night. Got to get into everything that we saw on Sunday. Mark Medina, the longtime NBA journalist, friend of the pod, he's going to join me in a few minutes to unpack all of that. But before I get to Mark, I did want to weigh in and talk a little bit about all the drama going on in New York with the Knicks, with this coaching search that they're on after firing Tom Thibodeau after the most successful season that they've had in nearly a quarter of a century. We're a few days removed from that firing, a decision that was obviously made with no succession plan in place. The latest is that the Knicks have an interest in Jason Kidd, the former Knicks player, the current Dallas Mavericks head coach. Kidd interviewed for the head coaching job in New York in 2020 before the Knicks hired Tibbs. James Dolan is said to like him. Mark Stein went as far as to report that New York plans to ask for permission to speak with Kidd. And that's kind of where we stand with this story as I tape here on Sunday night. I've been talking to a few people in and around the Mavericks organization over the last couple of days, trying to get a feel for what's actually being discussed, what might be on the table, and a few things I've been told to kind of be aware of. One is that this idea of letting Kidd out of his contract to coach the Knicks is something that's being discussed. The Mavericks could have nipped this story in the bud quickly with a simple statement. Jason Kidd is our coach, or don't even make a statement. Leak it to reporters. We have no interest. They're not going to allow our head coach, who has multiple years left on his contract, to go become the coach of another team. Kidd has 2 years left on the contract he signed after the finals run in 2024, and Dallas has no reason to let him out of that contract. So on some level, and I believe it's a very high level, this is being talked about in Dallas. So at what level, I guess, is the next question. And I think you have to look at the two owners of these teams. Jim Dolan is a New York guy, longtime owner of the Knicks, Cablevision, all the New York properties. But he's also a Vegas guy. He owns the Sphere in Las Vegas. He owns restaurants in Las Vegas. The Adelson family, the Dumont family, they are Vegas people. There's a certain relationship there, history there. Patrick Dumont, the team governor, he may decide that it's worth it to do a deal with Dolan, collect a draft pick, maybe some money, other compensation as well. I think that's something that I think could be a variable in all this. On Jason Kidd, I don't think he's looking for a way out of Dallas. This isn't like how it was in Brooklyn when he was clearly looking to make the move to Milwaukee. He's got a good thing going on in Dallas. He's got a very good veteran team that will soon add Cooper Flagg, the number 1 overall pick in the draft. We're talking a lot about Cooper Flagg over the next few weeks, but suffice it to say that Flagg is going to have a big impact next season, an even bigger one in 26-27 when Kyrie Irving would presumably be fully healthy, back, ready to go. For Kidd, all this talk about him going to New York, it's all upside for Jason Kidd. And look, he's looking for two things. He's looking to get paid, and he's looking to win championships. Does the Knicks job offer a better chance of winning a title? Debatable. They are in the Eastern Conference, but there is probably a lower ceiling on that team than there is the Mavericks. Money, definitely a lot of money. The Knicks are willing to pay Tom Thibodeau $30 million over the next 3 years to not coach them. I don't think Kidd considers a deal with New York unless they'd come to the table with some kind of 5-year offer, $50 million, $60 million, maybe more. It's got to be in that ballpark to get Kidd to even think about making a move this side. I don't get Dallas's angle to all this, though. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. It is strange to me that Dallas has not shut all this down by now. I mean, play this out. They let Jason Kidd go. Who replaces him? I mean, Kidd is uniquely qualified to coach that team. He has a relationship with Anthony Davis that dates back years to his playing days, to when he was assistant with the Lakers. He has full buy-in from Kyrie Irving, who grew up watching Kidd in Jersey, who relates to him on a player point guard level. I mean, who can fill that? That's out there on the market. Before Chauncey Billups signed that contract extension, he might have made some sense. He's kind of a different version of Kidd. Ime Udoka would make some sense, but the Rockets aren't going to let Udoka talk to New York. Why would they let Udoka talk to Dallas? They have zero interest in letting go of a coach that has changed the culture in Houston. If Kidd goes, the Mavericks would be exactly where the Knicks are right now, with a veteran contender and no idea who to coach it. It's a fact. That's why I think there could be something else at play here. And this is just my opinion. I'm not reporting this. I'm just more trying to read between the lines here. I think there has to be some thought in Dallas about blowing this whole thing up. You've got Cooper Flagg coming in, franchise player, a de facto get out of jail free card for the front office. You could build your team around this kid. He's 18 years old, but I'm telling you, like within 3 years, Cooper Flagg is going to be competing for an all-NBA slot. That's how good I think this kid is going to be. That's how high I think his very early ceiling is going to be. You let Kidd go, you could trade Davis for future draft capital. You can let Kyrie's contract come off the books. I mean, theoretically, in the summer of 2026, this team could have a ton of cap room. You could have Cooper Flagg going into year 2. It's not ideal, of course, and it would be wild to be in a full rebuild just 1 year after going to the finals, but they have to be thinking it, don't they? I mean, why else would they not be killing these Jason Kidd rumors right away? That's kind of how I'm seeing this story right now. I'm sure it'll evolve the next couple of days, and we'll have a whole lot of new things to talk about, but it just strikes me as really strange that Dallas hasn't killed this before it's gotten to this point where we're on like day 2, day 3 of discussing the possibility that Jason Kidd could be out of his contract in Dallas and off to coach the New York Knicks. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Mark Medina. All right, Mark Medina is back. Sportskeeda, Fox Sports Radio, good friend of the podcast, taping just minutes after Oklahoma City evens up the NBA Finals, 123-107, the final score from Oklahoma, which means only one thing: I won another NBA bet. That's because taking Oklahoma City at -11 to me was the greatest sure thing in recent gambling history. You remember, Mark, after game 1, when Aaron Gordon made that shot in the Denver series, what did Oklahoma City do in game 2? They won the next game by like 43 points. I felt very comfortable putting my paycheck in the hands of the gambling gods with Oklahoma City -11. I say this, though. In garbage time, Indiana started to make it a little bit interesting. Indiana was making a couple of shots. There were some guys there. James Johnson, all of a sudden, going to the basket, shooting, runners. Like they got like within 15, I think, at one point. I started to panic a little bit, but I'll take the win. I'm sure Oklahoma City will as well.
Yeah, I mean, panic enough maybe to worry about your spread, but not panic enough to think, okay, this is going to be a repeat of game 1. The Pacers, they always come back, but I think, Chris, as you saw, the Thunder play completely different. It was the typical elements of a bounce back game in game 2 after a team with home court loses in game 1. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander played like SGA, but everyone else elevated their game. Jalen Williams didn't necessarily shoot the ball efficiently, but he got to the free throw line. He produced. Chet Holmgren, much different player, looked more comfortable with shooting in the paint from the outside, getting rebounds, and then some nice bonus performances from Alex Caruso and Aaron Wiggins. Those are valuable players that the Thunder have off the bench, but usually those are the intangible guys. But, add all that up, and the fact that Tyrese Haliburton didn't have that kind of clutch performance that we saw in game 1 made all the right ingredients for a pretty dominant Thunder game 2 win.
So I want to unpack a few of those things. But let me ask you first, what did you think of Rick Carlisle waving the white flag with about 4 minutes to go in, I think, like a 17, 18-point game? I know the odds were stacked against Indiana in that moment, but the Pacers have been a team that's beaten the odds back all postseason. And Carlisle didn't really have a great answer for it after the game. Somebody asked him about it, and he kind of just said it was a coaching decision. I thought that was odd that he would.
Well, clearly it was a coaching decision. He's the one who made the decision.
I just thought it was odd that he would yank his guys out just like that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised as well. I mean, if it's a regular season game, a whole different story. But this is the finals, and the Pacers, they have a track record that no lead is too large, even though there is that old adage in the NBA playoffs, momentum might be overstated from game to game. I think that there is still a valuable part in closing out a game well because there's positive things that you can take from. So, yeah, I was surprised with that. But I think in fairness to the Thunder, they won it well before it. It's not like that was going to decide it. But yeah, I don't think there would have been any harm in adding an extra minute or two just to give them a chance. But, coaches always fear the dreaded injuries at the wrong time.
Yeah. Rest isn't an issue. They don't play game 3 until Wednesday. So you got 2 full days off to rest and recover. I just thought it was interesting. For any other team, any other coach, I would have said, all right, whatever, 20-point game, 4 minutes to go. But this Pacers team has been doing crazy things this playoffs. I thought he might give them a little bit more rope to try to get back into it. All right, let's talk about the differences in this game. Because for me, it started on the defensive end of the floor. Oklahoma City in game 1 let Indiana shoot 47 and change from the floor, 46 and change from three-point range. They forced a lot of turnovers, but didn't score a lot of points off those turnovers. The script kind of flipped, and this defensively looked a lot more like the Oklahoma City team we've seen for the entire regular season, a team that had the best defensive rating by a country mile. The Pacers shoot just 45% from the floor. It was actually lower than that, I think, through 3 quarters. I think they got some garbage time buckets when the game was largely out of hand, and shoot 35% from three-point range. Those are the kind of numbers that Oklahoma City is used to doing. I thought it started on the defensive end. What about you?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think it started obviously with Tyrese Haliburton, 5 points, 2 of 7 first 3 quarters. He did have a little bit of bounce back toward the end of the game, but this has been kind of a theme for Tyrese where in the playoffs, you either have a really clutch performance or you have his usual double-digit assist nights, or you have a game where he doesn't shoot the ball well. Now, when you talk to people around the NBA, they say, hey, that's a product of a young star finding his way. He's 25 years old. But that's a factor. I think the other thing that was also helpful defensively is they didn't seem to force the issue too much when they created those turnovers. They were able to be a little bit more patient and more opportunistic to get those points, because in game 1, when they were forcing or when they were getting those turnovers, they were then creating their own turnovers offensively, and that just played right into the Pacers' hands with playing at their own pace. The other thing, look at the free throws, getting 29 of 33. That allowed not only themselves to get more points, but it prevented Indiana from getting out on the open floor. So I think really when you look at the Thunder, they played mostly a complete game, or as mostly a complete game as you can expect in a finals game. Shea played at a high level. There are a lot of others, so to speak. And to what you said, they played really well defensively.
Yeah, they got crushed on the glass in game 1. They wind up winning the rebounding battle 43-35 in game 2. The turnovers were largely similar, 15 turnovers, 14 points off that for Indiana, 14 turnovers, 17 points for Oklahoma City. So it really, to me, was the defensive stops that Oklahoma City was getting. And it does begin with Haliburton. Like, he finishes the game with 17 points, but as you noted, like, he was only 2 of 7 after 3 quarters. He got aggressive in the fourth, but that felt like too little too late. Like, I know Rick Carlisle will say that this Pacers team is not about individual scoring. Haliburton is having positive contributions even when he's not scoring. All those things are true, but when you're getting tattooed in the first half, they were down 23 points on the first half. When you're getting buried in the first half, your star's got to be more aggressive. He's got to be the guy going to the rim. I thought the Thunder did an outstanding job of keeping Haliburton out of the paint. Everything was like a contested 2. Everything was, kind of pinning him down, forcing him to give the ball up. Like, they were really sharp on Haliburton. And it has been kind of a theme. Like, Haliburton, like, he's been the breakout star of these playoffs because of what he's done at the end of a lot of these games. but he's had a lot of games where he's been kind of so-so up until that point. Like, he makes the huge shot in game one against the Knicks, but it was Aaron Nesmith's, like, what was it, 6 fourth-quarter three-pointers or whatever that number was that got them back in the game and allowed Haliburton to have that signature moment. He put together a complete game in game 4 of that series. But even game 1 of this one, great shot, but he only had, 14 points, I think, in game 1. Like, so he's had some kind of so-so games that have been masked by his greatness at the end. I think they need a more aggressive version of him. Like, I think he's got to be up, 15, 20, 25 shots per game for, maybe not 25, that's probably too many, but like in the 15 to 20 shot per game range for them to be, in the mix against a team like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, his trainer, Drew Hanlon, he said to me in interviews, he said to other people in interviews that he constantly tells Tyrese Haliburton, you have to be more aggressive. You have to be more aggressive. Sometimes the most selfish thing is being too unselfish. And another thing, some other assistant coaches this week talking to me about Tyrese, and I was trying to get their read on that theme of why does he have these kind of games? And beyond the fact that he's still young, they observe that when he gets double teamed or if they keep him out of the paint or they try to be physical, he shies away and his aggressiveness even dilutes even more. So it's not a bad thing that he is a pass first point guard, but the other thing that made this more challenging is the usual others did not make shots. Pascal Siakam had 15 points, 3 of 11 shooting. He's usually the beacon of consistency, of efficient off-ball cutting, doesn't need the ball in his hands that much other than to score an easy basket, either at the rim or catch and shoot three. I think Obi Toppin went 1 of 8 from the field, but it starts with Tyrese with setting the tone. He doesn't necessarily have to all of a sudden be a score first point guard. He can be that pass first point guard, but he's got to be aggressive and try to set the tone rather than allow the defense to do that.
Yeah, I think 7 shots through 3 quarters is not going to get it done. It's not. Unless he has like 15 assists at that point. He's got to be more aggressive. He's got to be trying to get into the paint, creating havoc. He didn't do that in game 2, and I think that was among the reasons that Indiana lost. So on Oklahoma City's side, I thought Mark Dagnall had a really good game. Thought he made some really nice adjustments. The first adjustment, which we saw very early, was they went to that 2 big lineup of Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. And those 2 guys who have been starting alongside each other, basically whenever they've been healthy throughout the playoffs and throughout the end of the regular season, they didn't play a minute together in game 1. First quarter of game 2, Hartenstein, Holmgren out there on the floor, and it was effective. It got them that first quarter lead. They went back to it for a stretch in the second half. I thought the adjustment that Dagnall made there was productive. He saw the rebounding numbers, of course, in game 1. Needed to make a fix there, and I thought Hartenstein being out there with Chet gave them more physicality, gave them more rim protection, allowed them to play bigger. That was a good move there. And the other one was Wiggins. I talked to an executive recently during the last round about Dagnall, and this is an exec that really likes Dagnall, thinks he's a top 5 coach in the NBA. And one thing he said to me was that Mark is just not afraid to play anybody at any time. Look, Wiggins is not like, a back end of the bench guy that never plays. Like, he did play, I think, 9 minutes in game 1. He's been part of the rotation in the conference playoffs. But, rolling him out there early in the first half, giving him the freedom to stick around out there and play extended minutes, that paid off. 18 points. That's a great game for Aaron Wiggins. That's a huge reason they won this game. So I thought Mark Dagnall, if he lost the coaching battle in game 1, I thought he won the coaching battle in game 2.
Yeah, and I think the point that you made with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, even though technically Cason Wallace started and still played significant minutes, Isaiah Hartenstein still played significant minutes. So it's not like it had to be an either or. And when you're looking at their chemistry, they complement each other so well because Hardenstein's such a great passer, whether it's with Shea in the pick and roll game or really anyone else getting easy baskets. And Chet Holmgren is your do-it-all stretch 5. I mean, he is very aggressive at the paint. He can shoot outside shots. He looked more comfortable there. And the rebounding battle, they were able to complement each other well with the spacing as well as fighting for the boards to make that a strength. And that's not what happened in game 1. It looked like whether it was because of the starting lineup or a little bit of that being a factor, Chet didn't seem comfortable the way he normally looks comfortable. So huge props there. Rick Carlisle coached a great game in game 1. getting guys to not be overwhelmed with the fact that they committed 19 turnovers in the first half because they were still in the game and because the Thunder didn't take advantage of those turnovers, not calling timeout in that final play and showing the trust that he has in Tyrese Haliburton. But I don't think that Mark Dagnall meant that he didn't coach a good game one. But to your point in game two, he hit all the right buttons in knowing how to tap into everyone's strengths here.
Yeah, Chet had, what was it, 6 rebounds in game two. Hartenstein had 8 rebounds in game two, so they were a big part of the production on the glass. I'm looking at some of these plus-minus numbers. That don't make any sense. Like, Casey Wallace was plus 12 when he goes 2 for 4. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I thought had a much better game in game two, he's only plus 5. Lou Dort is minus 3. Like, I don't get plus minus sometimes. Like, it's just it can be such a misleading statistic. But I don't know. I think if you're Dagnall, maybe you give some thought to starting Chet and Hartenstein again. Like, just putting them back out there. Like, this is the lineup. This is the lineup they've used for most of the last couple of months. Like, this is a good lineup. It's comfortable. Again, it allows them to be more physical. It protects some of their smaller guys who get beat on mismatches in the paint. You didn't see those same mismatches created by Siakam or Nesmith or guys getting down the post. I don't know. I might give some thought to putting Case and Wallace back on the bench, going with Hartenstein again in that starting lineup. Either way, like, I'd probably have a quick trigger or a quick hook on Wallace early on, just because I want to get Hartenstein in that lineup. So that would be my only adjustment for Oklahoma City going to the next game.
Yeah, and I thought that they were going to do that in game one because, to your point, this is what got them there. They never had used this new lineup that they went with in game one until game one. But I think the broader point is there's so many other factors that explain the game one loss that I wasn't hung up on, they lost because of a new starting lineup. But I'm with you that I think moving forward, go with what got you here in the first place. And, even though we're in today's modern NBA 2025 where you need to go small certain matchups, we've seen throughout this season that Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, when healthy, complement each other so well. It's a perfect pairing, and it solves a lot more problems than creates it. So just stick with what you have and keep rolling with it.
Yeah, good bounce back game from Chet. He was bad in game one, much better in game two, and they needed him to be that complementary scorer, solid perimeter shooter. He was exactly what they needed in game two. Indiana, what adjustments did they make here? I mean, by all rights, this weekend was won by Indiana. They split. They now have home court advantage. They probably didn't expect to come in here and get both games. They get the one. Now they head back to Gainbridge on Wednesday with home court. What's the adjustment here? Like, what do you think they are talking about over the next couple of days that can put them in a better position? Because they're great at digging themselves out of holes. But this is now 2 games in a row they've dug some big holes. I mean, Oklahoma City, the difference in this one was that they never allowed Indiana to get closer than, I think, 13 in the second half. I think that was the closest the Pacers got. You can't keep rolling the dice, Mark, against teams like this and expect that this sort of divine strength that you come up with in the fourth quarter and these incredible heroics by your star player are going to be there every single night. They've got to find a way to keep these games competitive in the first 3 quarters so they're not trying to do something miraculous in the fourth.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, in game one, they had 25 turnovers, 19 in the first half. The fact that they overcame
that is the definition of playing with fire. Like, that is like, right. I mean, and we talked about this, before, but like having a 25-7 turnover gap like the Pacers had in game one and still winning the game is, I'm sure somebody on ESPN Stats and Info has done a deep dive on this, but I would argue that no team or few teams in NBA history, regular season or playoffs, have ever had an 18 turnover differential and still won a game. Like, just that stat alone was incredible that the Pacers were able to pull out a win.
Yeah. But to the broader point, beyond turnovers, we've talked about the main adjustment. It starts with Tyrese Haliburton, but be clear, it's a simple adjustment, but it's a layered adjustment. It's not just about Tyrese has got to shoot more and has to be more aggressive. How he plays affects everything else because it's going to allow Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, and any others to get easier shots and complement him in scoring. It's going to allow the Pacers to play at the kind of pace that they want to, and that's a huge strength of theirs, and they have to tap into that. But if the Thunder are getting trips to the foul line and the Pacers aren't hitting shots, they're not going to be able to play at that pace. I think the other thing that they have to tap into is just being a lot more disciplined with all their decision makings because it ties into their turnovers, ties into their balance with their offense, it ties into their defense. And I think when you're looking at the Pacers and the Thunder here, I think going in, everyone, including us, favored the Thunder, but I don't think every one of us thinks it's going to be a lopsided game every single game. We all thought it's going to be competitive. So if the Pacers do this, it's not going to guarantee them a win against the Thunder because they're that good, but at least it'll keep it interesting and it'll become a game that's deciding the final moments instead of what we saw in game two.
I think they've got to get in the paint a lot more, too. I think it's like 34 points they've had through 2 games in the paint. And look, that's a product of Oklahoma City's defense. They pack the paint. They're willing to give up corner threes. The Pacers took advantage of that in game 1. They were 10 of 16 from three-point range. They made some shots in the corners from game 2 as well. That's clearly part of this team's game plan. Get shooters in the corner and take advantage of how Oklahoma City plays defense. But they've got to find a way to get Haliburton in the paint. Like a big difference for Oklahoma City offensively was that whenever Indiana was blitzing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the perimeter, he was just splitting it. He was getting between them, and all of a sudden, you're kind of on a mini fast break there. If you've got 2 guys playing behind you, like Gilgeous-Alexander often does, all of a sudden, your defense is scrambling, and those shooters are open for Oklahoma City. Alex Caruso had a great shooting night. Jalen Williams made some shots for them. Go down the list. Like, they had guys knocking down three-pointers at a pretty good clip, 39% from three-point range. Williams only, 1 for 5, but Chet goes 1 for 3. Off the bench, Caruso 4 for 8. Wiggins 5 for 8 from three-point range. That's all a byproduct, a lot of it anyway, of Gilgeous-Alexander getting in the paint and wreaking havoc once he gets in there. Not only creating shots for himself, getting to the free throw line, but finding wide open opportunities for these guys. Indiana's got to tap into some of that. However they want to do it, they've got to find a way to get Haliburton in the paint, get him creating that same type of havoc, or else they're going to find themselves in another big hole once again when we go into game 3.
Yeah, and I think that when you're looking at the roster depth here, the head-to-head star matchup with Shai and Tyrese, they're not guarding each other, but just as far as what they're doing statistically, it's not even a debate. Shai is the best player on the floor, MVP for a reason, and so that reinforces that the Pacers need to have 1 or 2 X factors a lot more importantly than the Thunder do. I mean, you and I have talked about the importance of Jalen Williams, and I don't want to just downplay that because it's very important that he's more consistent, doesn't have these kind of eggs, because the numbers have shown when he doesn't shoot the ball well, usually the Thunder lose. But the Thunder can absorb off nights from their role players much better than the Pacers do. So I think moving forward, they have to have at least 2 players beyond Tyrese Haliburton playing at all-time level. With the Thunder, it can't just be on Shai, but if it's just one other guy, it's probably not ideal, obviously, but they could probably get through it because of how dominant Shai has been. So that all illustrates that the Pacers have a big challenge on their hand. They're capable of doing it, but that's the bare minimum, again, just to keep this game competitive because the Thunder just have so much depth, continuity, and discipline.
Well, you're not going to win if Siakam's 3 for 11, minus 15. You're not going to win any of the games this series. Benedict Mathurin has been good. He was good in game 2, 4 of 7. TJ McConnell, 5 of 7. Though I think a lot of those shots came late, or a couple of them at least came late, that when the game was out of reach. But Obi Toppin going 1 for 8 is dreadful. Thomas Bryant, 12 minutes, did nothing, committed a couple of crappy fouls, then looked at the bench with this incredulous look on his face, like he couldn't believe that obvious fouls were called that way. Ben Shepherd didn't really provide much, played 13-ish minutes, 1 of 2. These guys, and look, maybe when they go back home, they'll step up, they'll play better. The way the old saying goes, role players play better when they get at home. And, You could hear Rick Carlisle in the post-game presser basically pleading with Indiana fans to show up in the same way that Oklahoma City fans showed up in the first 2 games of this series. So maybe they get a bump there. But you're right. They've got to have someone. They've got to Haliburton play a lot better. But then the guys around him have to play a lot better as well. As I said coming into the series, the margin for error for Oklahoma City or for Indiana to win is super slim. Like Oklahoma City, they've just got more ways to beat you. Indiana, heroics just aren't enough to get it done. So the challenge for Indiana begins right now when Game 3 starts on Wednesday. Mark, great stuff, man. Always appreciate you taking some time to join me, especially late at night. I will provide a cut of my gambling winnings to you the next time I see you out in LA.
Oh, wait, is that for real? Okay. Well,
No,
I'll
it's
give
not
you
for
my.
real. No, you don't give anybody gambling winnings. No, you don't cover my losses. All right. No. Winnings pocketed. I'll give you a tip next time. I'll give you a boxing tip next time. How about that?
Chris, to be clear, I was not expecting that at all because you earned it when you volunteer. It's like, okay, you need my direct deposit here. I'll give it you all the info that you need.
Mark, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining me.
Appreciate you, man. You're awesome.